This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning. How about now? Is this clear?
Yeah.
Okay. So hope you can see my screen now. So yesterday we were seeing some fundamentals of PowerShell, and then we also seen some small commands, and then we started looking at operators, and then also looked at variables as part of this one, right? As simple as that. Let us see today some frequently used commands in PowerShell or in any scripting language, or any programming language basically. So once we see this command, then we will go to the syntax stuff, basically syntax and semantics. Okay. So let us say, generally, if you're writing some scripts, you might be required to sort some data and find out some unique data basically. It can be unique numbers or it can be unique strings as well, means words basically. So how do you do such kind of thing? So you will have a get unique command. So if you can relate all these commands, whatever I'm going to show you now, it is what how it looks like yesterday basically. So I was showing you, right? It all verb hyphen noun, right? Get, start, out, stop, like this. Everything will be like that. That's what you can relate basically. So now I'm going to use a get unique command. First of all, I will have some variable which contains, sorry guys. Let me open PowerShell ISC, okay, not PowerShell, so that you can easily write the scripts, run as an administrator. So I have a variable with the name called list. So I have a list variable, and I assigned these strings basically: hello, hi, hello, morning, morning, super. So I have some duplicate values as well. Sorry, duplicate words as well. So how do I find out the unique words from this one? So since you already have the dollar list, you need to send this as a parameter to one of the commands, which will give you the output basically. So that is your get unique command. How do you apply these commands on any given data? So that is what important. So command is not the important, how you use is what important basically. So if you want to sort pick only the unique values or unique words here, then you need to apply or use some command. So how do you use? You have to start with your data. You can call it as array basically. So this is a variable, but it is a variable of type array basically. You can think like that. What you see in .NET, Java, etc. So here you will declare like this: array of values or list of values. Okay. So this is how you see. Okay, you have to have that variable and then pipe symbol, and then first I'm sorting, and then I'm applying get unique command basically. So this is how you apply commands on any kind of data what you have basically. Okay. So when I do this one, run this, so you can see in the bottom, right, it is listing out all the data, and then you have the command executed, and the output is hello, hi, morning, super. So I have only unique words here, 4 words here. I see 1 2 3 4 5 6. So hello is repeated and morning is repeated. It basically taken only one value from there, from both the words. So the takeaway here is that this is how you can apply the commands on top of the data what you have. First the data and then the commands with pipe symbol. If you have more than one command. If you don't have more than one command, that's okay. Uh, are you clear? How do you apply commands on top of data to get your results? Okay. So similarly, I'm just introducing. Let us say you want to list out for some of the regions. You want to list out all the child items in your. You have folders, folder in a folder, folder in a folder, and you will have all your files, etc. If you want to find all the folders or files within a folder or file or folder, you can use this get child item basically. Okay, so again, how do you get it? So let us say I forgot to email these commands. I'll do it today. So again, first what I'm doing, I'm creating a variable a, and then I want to put the output, take the output and assign into the variable a basically. That's the reason $a equal to get child item, and I want to list out all the child items in the folder basically. This is a parent folder, right? What are the child items of this one? Just see. You do not see anything here after the query is executed, but you do not see anything. So the reason I am not printing this to console basically. Let's say dollar. Yeah. Now you are now printing it to the console. Now you can see here. So dollar this is executed, and what it is listing, there are two files in my parent directory October 28 21 in D folder, and those two files are test file without any extension, test file with .txt extension. It is giving all the data, and for some regions in your logic you may not want so all this information basically. You probably need only the name of the file. Okay, in those cases you can format this output to your needs as well. Okay, so just if I want to have only the file name from this output, that's where you can use the other command. Okay, so there is a command called format void and then space hyphen input object and $a. Okay, input, say what you are sending into this format command, you are sending input as $a basically. Now if you see it, you see the bottom here, test file.txt. It actually took only the name from the output of get child item, which is there in the $a basically. And that $a is passed to your format. I will tell you how do you know. Hey, I mean, you may wonder, Puna, how do you know what to be used here, etc. So one way is using this command palette, right, on the right hand side. The other way is once you start learning like this for 1 or 2 times, then you will basically automatically go to PowerShell material and identify it actually. But there is another way as well. Basically, it is like a professional basically. Okay, I will tell you how to use those techniques as well to identify what a command can do basically. Yeah, but let's understand. Let's get familiarized with these commands. How do you execute and how do you use it? And generally, another frequently used command is you will have a list of values. So here you have a list of words, right? Similarly, you will have a list of values, and probably you need to uh, do some logic on top of those list of values basically. Okay, so let me show you how you do that. So if I have to say, guys, generally if I have to take the list of values, how I will do, I will create a variable and assign this list of values into that variable. But there are some other ways without creating a variable also you can do apply some logic on top of your data. So let us say this is the list of values. How do I do? So I'm going to apply for each object command on top of this data. Okay, so and then what I'm saying, hey, for each of these values in this list, okay, like 1000, 2000, 3000, divide by 1000 and give me the data. That's what I'm saying. What is this dollar underscore? So dollar underscore refers to each and every value that is there in your list basically. So dollar, when it is doing a looping, right, for each object in this list, first 1000 will come, next 2000 will come, next 3000 will come. So those values will be available in this dollar underscore. So this is a special variable. So if you go to a special variable section here, okay, if you see here, contains the current object in the pipeline object. My pipeline object is my list basically there. You can use this variable in commands that perform an action on every object or a selected objects in a pipeline. Okay, if you are using some object, it will hold each and every item of that object into this dollar underscore this kind. So that's the reason I did not read yesterday. Now I am reading this. Okay, now if I run it, what happens? This for each object, first it will take this value 1000 and divide by 1000, or if you can put it divide by 100. Okay, then it will go to 2000. It will take it will divide it by 100 like that. Okay, now let's go and run it. When I run it, you see 10, 20, 30. So it is dividing each and every value. So that is the benefit of dollar underscore special variable basically. Okay, let's explore some other commands as well. Then you give it, and you can split it as well. Okay, how do you split? Let us say if you are using some complex word or some comma delimited values, basically comma separated data or dot separated data, but you want to split it and create an array, or split it and uh, insert into some table, such kind of things you want to do. Or let us say you will have first name and last name. Basically we'll have let us say my name Purnachandra.Kanmalupudi, but you want to take first name and put it into a column in table, second last name, take that and put it into a column, like that you want to do. So that is what splitting, right? So this is how we do. Let us say this is my first word in my list, Microsoft.PowerShell.core, and the second word in my list is Microsoft.PowerShell.host. Okay, and what I'm doing, for each object in my list of words, I want to split it and take the database. You see here also I'm using dollar underscore. Now so this value come into dollar underscore and it will identify dot, and then it will split it to different words basically. Let's see how it looks like. Now you can see Microsoft PowerShell core. Here you have three words, right? 1, 2, 3. Bottom you can see Microsoft PowerShell core, Microsoft PowerShell host. So if you want to split, then you can use that like this. So now you see the value of purpose of for each object, and how do you do on a single line basically. And you can see we are applying the commands on some data by using pipe symbol. Okay, your data and then pipe symbol, or your variable pipe symbol and the command. Okay, so similarly you have I listed out some items like how do you invoke some, or how do you execute some text file, some exe files, or how do you open some files, etc. So let us say I want to open the file inside my uh, directory. So let us say that is invoke item. You can execute an item as well with this. Okay, let us say d colon October test file. If I want to open this, it's like invoking, right? You can run it as well, something. Okay, see, this is what we created, right? I given the path and I'm able to open it. Okay, guys, I'm just introducing you to the commands. I'm not writing any scripts as of now. Okay, so when we are writing the script, you will understand how all it looks like. Okay, okay. And you have let us say we have all the services in our services.ms, right? What are all the services running in my server? Services dot on a Windows machine. If you want to see all the services that are running in a server, services.ms basically, it will show you all the services that are running on your server or laptop. Some of them are running, some of them are disabled, some of them are started. like this you can see. So you can list out all these things as well. How do you list out? So you go here. So the command that you have is get services. Click on tab. Okay, run this. I think this is a service. Okay, not services. Okay, now it listed out all the services, right? Whatever you see in the services dot window. But if you want to query only for services which are in stopped status or running status, you can do that query as well. On top of this, you need to apply some other command. The way you applied, for each object, etc. You can apply that query here as well. So the first thing is that you need to apply pipe symbol. So you can take the command from my is this. Let me take this. So what I'm saying, where object status equal to stop, equal to yesterday we were going through, right? Equal to, not equal to, the operators basically. Okay, so what I'm saying, so now all the, so see, earlier we simply given the values like this, right? Like this in this command. But generally when you are working in a script, all your data will come dynamically. It may not be static mostly. Okay, now that's what you see. Now the output of get service is all this data what you see in the bottom basically. Now what I'm doing, the way you see in your SQL queries, right? Select star from table where employee name equal to Purna, like that, right? Similarly here you have the list of the output of this command is a list of all the services. Okay, and on top of that I'm selecting a specific value, specific data, where object status equal to stopped basically. So as you see in the previous command, all the values will be in this dollar basically. Okay, internally it will go on the loop through when you say where object, the way you see it in the SQL queries. Similarly it will do the operation in the backend, it will do something. Okay, but it will go through each and every service, look for the status equal to stop, and then list out those values. So you can see here, now it is listing only stopped values. Okay, you can see here on the left hand side you see that stop dash. Okay, so now you see how to use dynamic values and then static list of values as well in these commands basically. Okay, so there are many other commands like this. You can explore it once I give it. Okay, so I just introduced you some commands, frequently used commands. Now go back to our fundamentals. Okay, yesterday you seen operators and variables. Okay, now today let's go and see the conditions and the loops basically, how you will loop through the data, how you will apply some conditions and do your logic. And this is what you see in any programming language again and any scripting language. So let's look at the for loop first basically. Okay, so what is the advantage of for loop or while loop? It is to loop through the data and apply some logic. And that same for loop, we did it in a different way, right? Just here, I mean, we have a list of values, and then we simply use it sort and get in it. Internally it does that basically when you say sort. Okay, and here also you can see the for each object. Here is also for loop on a list of object, means it doesn't matter what data you have, etc. So in this, if you want to do on a single line, you can do like this. For each object, use a dollar underscore, and then it will look through each and every data. So, but this is a very traditional way. Okay, where, because there you do not have much logic to do basically. Here the logic is simply divide by something or multiplied by something. But if your logic is more than one line, then you need to then you cannot use this. You need to use the for loop basically. That is for one line logic. This is for more than one line logic. Okay, that's how you can understand. Okay, so let us say, let's go on. So how do you basically create arrays? The one way is I shown yesterday. I mean, just before that, you can create a variable and assign list of values separated by comma. But generally, you will do like this. So the rate of dollar, right? Integer. Alright, I'm just giving. You can give any name. Equal to. This is how you define basically. At the rate, open bracket, close bracket, and list of your values. Now I want to look through all this data. And again, this data in your real time might be coming from some command output, the way you see in get process, etc. Or it could be some other place or some query. It could be anything. Okay, but I'm showing you demo for demo purpose like this. Okay, now how do I write a for loop? It's very simple. This is what you see in other programming languages as well. There is no difference. Okay, so there you will see for and open brace and close brace, right, in Java.NET. Similarly, you will have the same thing. So for you can see this $i, right? This is a variable, I mean dynamic variable that we can create. Okay, for I equal to 0, I less than integer array dot length. Let me take this. Okay, these are the properties. Length I plus plus. What it is saying? Hey, take the content of your integer array and start from the index 1, index 2, index 3. It's better you can give some other. So yeah, index at index 0 you have 10 value 10, index 1 you have value 2, index 2 you have value 3. But it is saying, hey, start from 0th position or 1 position, wherever you are starting like this, and take those values and display it on the screen. That's what I am doing here, and not anything more than that. And if you might be having a lot number of logics as well. Okay, more than one line as well. But my consideration is not on logic now. It's about how you use a for loop basically. So let me clear that screen. Okay, when you run it, what it is doing, it is basically looping through each and every value, and then it is simply displaying it on the screen. If you want to something else, let us say, you can see the $i here. If you give something else, let us say $1, what happens now? This way, invalid value, because there is no such variable basically. If you remove this one, if you give only one, you see for 3 times it looped through, but every time it took the value at uh, value at first position. It started with 0. I told you, right? 0 1 2. That's the reason 3 times it displayed the same value. To loop through everything, give the
Purna screen got disconnected on again.
is it
Yeah. Just now connected back.
okay? Probably network issues. Okay, I'm not sure. Okay. I cannot see that one because I'm in full mode. Okay, let me run it. And if you want to do some multiplication, etc., do it. 10. You can see now it multiplied and each and every value and displayed. So this is how you can use for loop. Okay, to apply some logic on each and every value what you have in a list or whatever is the data you have basically. And similarly, we have a for each loop as well. Okay, both are same only. Okay, but it's a different syntax. Okay, it will also do the same thing for each loop. So let me keep that there. Okay, so what this for each loop do, it will also do this. It will go through each and every value in the list, and uh, and you can use that value, apply some logic basically. Here you see you are going by indexes, like start from index 0 and then 1 2 3, and how you are incrementing from one value to other value $i plus plus. Okay, till the length less than so till the value less than the length of the table. length of this is 2 basically. Okay. Now here what you are doing, for each number is a variable here. Okay, for each number in this integer array, do something. That's what it is saying. Okay, both are same. Okay, let me take this out. To do this, what you got? 1, 2, 3. Similarly, if you want to do some multiplication, whatever the operation you can do, and you might have more than one line of code, in your logic. Both are same. Okay, the only syntax differs. Okay, you can give any name here, as I said. Okay, so let us say some whatever you want, but whatever you are using here should be used here to retrieve the value. Okay. Got it? So that's about for each loop, and the next one is while loop. So again, it will also do the same looping only, but the syntax will be different. Let me show you. So in for loop, we are initializing the variable inside the loop, basically inside this for condition for the statement. But in while loop, we will do it even before that. So what it does, it will repeat a list of logic what you have in the while loop until the condition is true, basically. Okay, let me take this. Let me put it in a separate lines. So you have, this is what, right? Each loop will have a open brace and close brace. Okay, inside that you will have your logic. Okay, and what you are in for loop, if you see, for I equal to 0, I less than length of the array, and I plus plus, your initialization and condition to check the list, length of the array, and then incrementing the index, everything is in the same line, basically. While loop, you will do the initialization outside. Okay, let us say it can be I, or it can be counter, it could be anything, basically. Generally we use a counter, cnt, etc. General trend. Okay, so counter equals 0 while counter less than integer array dot length. So if you want to see what is integer dot array, length, you can see it. Okay, you can put here as well if you want. It will display. Okay, so you are initializing outside and you are verifying the condition here. Okay, and then applying some logic, and in order to go to the next item after the execution of this logic, you are doing the counter equal to counter plus 1. Yesterday I was showing, right, plus equal to 1. Here if you want to increase like value every time, you can use variable plus equal to 1, or you can simply say equal to dollar counter plus 1. Both are same. Like this also you can do, like this also you can do. Okay, now see what you do. I got some error. Dollar is not recognized. Okay. Sorry. Here there is a issue here. See, it will give you the line numbers. If you read the data, right, where the error occurred, you can see here. If you read all these things, and then line 13, character 4, it is clearly telling me, hey, line 13, character 4, you have an error. So variable, right? List array is also variable, right? There is a gap there. That's why you can go by this, color coding schemes as well. It will tell you. Okay, let me now run this. So what is the output here? 3 1 3 2 3 3. Whatever you see, 3 3 is this one, basically. 1 2 3 is what, this one. Let me take this out. I'm not doing any logic now. Every time, see, it went to infinite loop. You see, it is keep on running. The reason, I don't have a, see, I'm initializing value to counter equal to 0, and every time checking counter while counter less than the length. This condition is always successful, right? it will never be failed. That's the reason it is always increasing. It will keep on running infinite time. That's where your server will go die basically. Okay, stop it. Why? That's the reason you need to increase the value of this one basically every time. Otherwise, that condition will always be true. Counter equal to, this is called infinite loops basically. Now if I do this, you know I got it, because every time I'm increasing the value of this counter by 1. So obviously at one point of time your counter value will be greater than this length of your array, then it will exit basically. Got you? If you what happens if you remove this you know counter plus 1, it will take you to the infinite loop. You can see the length of the array is 3. Okay, go ahead. And now if you want to do some logic, you can do that basically. Integer array dollar counter, and sorry, it's off basically, it's not this one. Off this bracket. Okay, so I can see this one. Okay, so when you are using while loop, never forget to use this incremental basically, otherwise you will run into infinite. Okay, similarly you have your do while loop. So only difference between while and do while is, in while you will do the condition first, do while you will do the condition last basically. So that means the logic inside your do loop will get executed at least once. You can see this one, while came to end of this loop basically, not before this. That's the difference. This one has come to here basically. It become okay. That means it executes, this logic executes at least once. You can see the same value. Remove this if you want. You see 1, 2, 3. So it executes at least once. Okay. So that's what do value. So now you know the looping the data using for loop or for each loop, while loop or do while loop. Now other conditions that you have is a conditions basically. If loop, if else, and nested if as well. If else, if, like that basically. It is to write your logic based on some conditions, or execute your logic based on some conditions, right? So, and this is there in each and every programming language and each and every scripting framework as well. Let's go and see, okay, how you write your methods. So how do you write? So I have some variable with data as 10. So what I'm saying, hey, if x is less than 15, then go and do some or apply some logic. Otherwise, don't do something. Let us say I may want to do dollar sum equal to dollar x plus 25. Okay, I can do like this as well. Dollar sum. Okay, you can see again, you have the condition, you have the open brace, and you have the logic, and then you have the close brace. Okay, so if x is less than 15, then this logic will be executed, as simple as that. Click this. Now you see, if example 35, because I did a sum of x plus 25 and then added this sum basically. I can say, I can give some space here so that you will see it correctly. Okay, if example, let us imagine that my actual value is 30. Okay, now what happens? There is no output here because this condition is not successful. X is not less than 15. That's the reason it didn't go in. So in that cases, I want to execute some other logic. In that case, you can use a else part, else block, else, open brace, close brace, and probably you can use this some logic basically. Probably here I would see, instead of sum, I would say subtraction, and I would say minus. Just for our reference, I'm putting else example here. Okay. Now what I mean, what is expectation? The condition fails here, then it will go to else block. The control will go to else block. That's it. Now you see else example 35. That's what I written here, right? 35 has come from sorry, 35 has come from here. You know, I have to use the subtraction variable, right? Subtraction. You can see now 5 basically. So that's how you can write if else conditions as well. That's what I'm showing here. Okay, you have the if condition and then if else condition, and then we can have the nested if as well. Nested if means you might have some complex logic. Okay, you once you're done with if condition, okay, you written some logic, and inside that based on this data you want to do some more conditions as well. Let us say if dollar sum equal to, or let us say 55, then open brace, close brace, and I say you can use the write host to write to the console for the time being. I want to send it to I mean, I'm just writing some logic. I mean, okay, in real time it will be anything else, right? Okay. Okay, if sum is not equal to 55, what you do? You can go to else part as well. And you say so, like this is called a nested if basically. You are evaluating some condition, applying some logic, and again you want to evaluate some condition, apply some logic. This is how you can write. If there is no there is no limit here. Now if I go and run this, so I'm in the else example 5 because my first condition itself is invalid. I mean, x is not less than 15. Okay, let us I make it 10. Okay, now what happens? X is less than 15, that's why it came inside. 10 plus 25 is 35. Okay, it displayed if example 35. That's what you see the first line. Okay, and now it control came here. Now the value of that dollar sum is 35. 35 equal to 55? No, right? 35 is not equal to 55. That's the reason it went to else condition. That's what you see here. I want to send it to Kiran's account. Similarly, the same conditions you can put here as well, else conditions as well. So there is no limit. This you call it as a nested if basically. If an if condition inside an if condition, if else condition inside an if condition, then this you can keep on going go on top of this. Again, you can write here. Okay. So you will need this in many areas of the logic. So that's called a nested if I given here. Okay. And then if nested if or if else conditions are little, I mean, not much readable, but see, I have a professional level of experience. It is okay, but for some people it may not be, readable basically. So you have a switch statement as well. You can do conditional you can execute logic based on conditions using if loop, or you can use a switch as well. Okay, how this switch looks like. Let me put it in another tab here. Okay, so this is what switch like. Okay, I'm putting it in a, what it is saying, if the value that is sent to the switch is 4, then go and execute the block of logic that is there in 4 basically. Okay, if the logic, so let me put some variable. Let us say first run this. When I run this, what is the output, right? Here 4, say I sent it 4. How many blocks are matched? This block is matched and this block is matched. So the output here is 4. I can use a right host. I can use simply like this basically. Okay, for second time for EC here. That's the output EC. Okay, but in general, it is not hard coded, right? It will be a values. Let us say dollar. I'll say I give you some value. Okay, value is equal to 3, and then you will replace this using dollar value, right? Now whatever is being passed here, now you see executed, the passed value is 3, and what is the matching block? This is the matching block, and that's the reason your output is 3. And basically what happens in this, you will have a set of logic basically. Let us say it will not be simple, right? You will write a lot of stuff in this open and the close brackets. Okay, it's not as one line, it will be multiple lines. So earlier you say if you have to write it in if else condition, what you will do, if value equal to 3, if value equal to 4, if value equal to 5, like that you need to write, right? But here you simply writing in a switch basically. Send that value to switch, and it will determine which block to be executed based on the matching value. Now if you see here, for 4, right, I have 2 matching blocks of logic basically, but I want to exit after the first block. So how I do, I can apply some command called break. So so how do I use this break? So let me put it in a separate lines so that it will be clear to you. Break. We can use semicolons as well to separate lines. Okay. Now execute. Now send this 4 basically. So now it is showing the output only 4 here. If I remove this break, the output will be both 4 and second time 4. If you see run it, you see here 4 and second time 4. Okay, if you keep the break, it will be only 1. So what happened? Your value is resolved to 4, and it identified 4. It executed this one, and it said break. Hey, don't go to another 4 even though it is available. So that's how you can use simplify conditional based logic execution. If you are having 10, 15 or 5, 6 conditions to be evaluated, you don't need to use a if condition. You can use a switch condition. Okay. So now you know how to use variables, how to use operators like arithmetic operators and then logical operators, etc. And then you know how to use loops and conditions. Now you are ready to use ready to write a script basically. Okay, but before that, and you know the commands as well, how to use commands as well. Okay, but before that, let me introduce, before go and write a script, right? let me introduce you to Azure commands as well, how you can work with Azure commands. Okay, or else let me add a logic basically. Okay, let me take logic. Let's start with a simple script basically. So now what I want to do is I want to query all the services that are running on my laptop and kill one of the services based on some logic basically. Kill means destroy, right? So what I'm doing, I'm getting all the processes using get process command into my variable dollar process, and for each, now you see how I am looping through. For each, I'm using for each loop because these are not integer or word or something, right? Now you understand. If it is not an if it is not a simple data type like integer or a string etc., or integer float etc., then you can use object for each loop basically. If you know the data type, whether it is a list of values, I mean integer, float, etc., use for each for I equal to 0 etc. If you don't know what will come in the output of this command, then you can use for each. So what I'm saying, for each process inside this list of processes, do some logic. Okay, so what is that logic? I'm going to find out the name of my process, which is iExplore, and killing this one. How I'm, so you don't know this, you don't know whether it is a name or etc., right? How do you know? Basically, it should give you, when you say dollar, sometimes it will not give, but it is name. How do I know? Basically, I will tell you how do you identify where you can find the name from this get processes basically. Okay, first let's understand what it is doing. It will go and look through each and every processes, and if the process name equal to iExplore, and kill that process. We can see this. Okay, so let me what is iExplore? Our Internet Explorer, right? So where is my Internet Explorer? This is the Internet Explorer, right?
One question.
Mm-hmm.
So when you write the command get process, it will get all the
Hmm.
running processes in background.
Yeah, that's what, right? Earlier we seen, right? When you say get processes, it will get all the processes, not running. Each and every process. That's where we applied the logic, right? If we go to the previous commands, we applied the logic for querying only for running or stopped, etc. If you
Okay.
remember, you can see somewhere we see here we use it, right?
The
Get
last
service.
but one.
Yeah, now I can put here. Okay. So if you give only get service, it will give all the services, right?
But Purna, service refers to Windows services, right?
Yeah, all the services running on your laptop. See, it is my laptop, right? If you're running on a server, the services running on your server.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm giving some example. So if you want to take only running services, then you have to apply this command, right? Where status of the service is stopped or running.
Okay.
Then you will get services. So now you see only the running services, right? We queried it like this. Okay. Similarly, what we are
Yeah.
doing here, processes basically. Now I'm talking about process. Process means so your now your PowerShell window is a process. Okay, your PowerPoint is a process. You might be executing some whatever you see here, right, in the task manager. These are all the processes, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now what I'm saying, hey, go and look into each and every process. If there is an Internet Explorer, just kill it. Okay. Now go. So I actually opened Internet Explorer. It is gone. Let me open it again. Put it in a different. Okay. Put it like this, and then now if you run this here, right? You can put like this. Now if you run this, the bottom one, this Explorer should be gone basically. Gone, right? So you will killed it basically. But how do you know, I mean, whether it is a so this is a method. If you see like this, a word with open and close, it is a method. And anything that you are retrieving like name, etc., this is a property. Okay, how do you know? So in the start of the session, I have a command called get member. Okay, I'm not sure if you remember. That's the reason you need to go back. Okay, I have a command called get member. It will give me all the methods and properties that are available on a given method. Let us say get processes, right? Get process hyphen, what is it? Get the, sorry, that's not hyphen, that is a pipe symbol. Get member. Now I'm just executing only this one. Okay, what it is giving me? It is giving me all of its properties and methods. This is basically, if you go to .NET Java, they use concept of classes and objects. So this is similar to that. Okay, now what are all the properties and methods available in this get process? Get process is a command. From this command you will get set of values, and set of values you have a number of properties and methods. See, I see there are number of methods. Let me take it in some notepad or something, so it will be easier. Okay. So when I use this command, I want to identify what are all the properties and methods available. Okay. For here, let's example kill. There should be kill as well. Sorry, this is up. Okay, down. Okay. See what it is saying. There is a method called kill basically. Okay. And so so you can go and read the definition basically. Using kill method, I killed that process. If I want to start some process, I have to use a start, and I am taking the name, right? Let us say name. You see the process name here. Yeah. So when you use a properties, right, it will, you can take the read the value or set the value basically. So this is only read only value. I mean, you can only take it basically. If you have something like get set, you can set the value of this value. I mean the output as well here. Okay. Now what I'm doing, I think this is pretty old, outdated. That's the reason even name also coming basically. You have to use a process name. Okay, let me open that also works, and this also. So there will be, I mean, frequently people outdate the older stuff basically. Okay, so you can see the Internet Explorer here, right? It is gone from here because this is also there. That's why it is given. The Internet Explorer is gone, you see here. So you can use a get member one, sorry, get member command and a certain command to identify what are all the properties and methods that are available. So you can use anything. Let us say if you want to find out uh, what else, you can list out as well. Dollar process dot, you can take anything. What is this handle count? I don't know what is that. If you want to print this, you can use that. Okay, so for each and every process it has given handle counts here, you see. Okay, So these are the properties. Let us say if you want to use methods like I basically killed actually. Probably you can start some process as well, okay, which is not running, or you can end something. Kill means end only. You can start some process. If you know the path of the process, you can go and start it as well. Process is nothing but some your exes that is running on your stuff, right? You can go and identify the path, and you know the path, you can go and start them as well. And all of the methods or properties available. If you want to know, you use that method, get process, sorry, get member, get member. Okay, so based on your need, you can go and see, hey, what are the properties and methods available to set and or execute something uh, based on your logic basically. So here I needed a method to kill the process of Internet Explorer. Okay, clear? When you write a few more scripts, right? I will write some. I will show you complex scripts. That's where you see the power of all these techniques. Basically, many of the times people don't know what properties and methods are available on a certain command, and that's the reason they struggle basically. Now if you know, now you can go through all these things, and if you don't know how to use it, then you can Google it. That will help you a lot. Otherwise, most of the times people spend a lot amount of time in Googling. Google will give you all the results, but if you know the exact keyword or exact thing what you are looking for, it will become easier for you. Okay. So guys, would like to stop these commands and the fundamentals for today for now. Okay. Tomorrow, what you do, we will write some complex scripts and then execute those scripts from the release pipeline, and then uh, uh, from the pipeline and different servers as well. Okay, that we will do it tomorrow. Okay, now you covered fundamental. Now if you understand, if you want to go and learn Python, right? First, go and learn your variable declaration, if conditions, else conditions, looping conditions, and all these special variables, and identify how do you, uh, what are the properties and methods available and command. Now that's how you need to learn. Okay, I'm just giving you clue. That's how I learn as well. Okay, so tomorrow, end of tomorrow, you can understand the scripts and you can write the scripts as well, because now you know syntax and semantics, and you know how to use the commands, you know how to search for commands, and you know how to use the properties and methods of commands. Okay, that's it for today, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Kunal.